With how much we've been talking about Pixel books and Pixel buds, it's fair to think that we forgot about the Pixel 4. Of course, we haven't, but there's a lot more to that than the fact that the phone's coming out tomorrow. This is the Android Police Podcast.
It's Monday, October 14th. Welcome. Alongside Jules Wang, I'm Cody Toombs. And yes, this year's Made by Google event is happening tomorrow in New York. We've got a whole team in the Big Apple to check out the show. So stay tuned to the Android Police. Sorry. So stay tuned to Android Police for continuous coverage throughout Tuesday, including a podcast from the ground.
And if you're looking for more discussion on the Pixel Book Go and perhaps a second version of the Pixel Buds, you should check out Friday's episode in your feed right now. But in the meantime, let's go over what we know, or at least what we think we know about the Pixel 4 and 4 XL. Our Ryan Hager has a rumor roundup post on our site with all the specs and specs, specification and speculation. Trying to get that out in a twisted tongue. But in the meantime, we should talk about the physical aspects of it, the things that you can see. So we have a different design language going on with this new generation of pixels. At least that's what we believe. Instead of the two-tone thing going on with the polycarbonate and the glass on the back, you may get a full glass pane and a little black metal framing for the chassis. Black, white, and orange are what we believe to be the colors at this point. And then the display bezels in the front are going to be a little bit thick, and that is to make room at the top for a fat lip. Now, what does this fat lip contain? Well, we believe it's going to have some Project Soli, perhaps, radios that, as we have seen in little demos and with the FCC, they're supposed to detect in-air hand gestures, just like what do you have with LG in their recent phones. With also a time of flight light system, we've seen that too for facial recognition. You've seen it for the iPhone all the way back to the X or 10 or however. I still don't get how to pronounce that. So for the first time ever, we got to talk about the freaking stove. We got multiple cameras doing the same thing as you would expect them to do on other OEMs phones. We got the main, we got the wide angle, and then we had the telephoto. And this is a big one because as far as we know in the West, I think this is the most zoom that has been offered. We're believing it's 8 times zoom, and that's compared to like 2 or 3 elsewhere. So we have a few talking points to go through here. Do you think it's time that Google joined this world of multiple cameras, having stuck to that one with the good computational thing going on, night mode? Just everything has been great with it, just with one camera. Is now the time to make the step?
Well, anyone who's heard me talk about this before knows I think they are so deeply overdue for this. To the point it should have happened last year. But with Google's assorted ways of delivering really good picture quality using just the one camera, people have wanted to see what they could do with a little bit more computational power with differentiating two different frames, being able to pick up different qualities using different cameras. This it promises to be a really, really powerful capability to actually use multiple sensors at the same time.
Yeah, and given how much more power that you can get per lens, it's going to be interesting to see what sorts of details they may want to pull. I know it's a little early to talk about the future, maybe a Pixel 5 or even a Pixel 4a, but how far do we expect, the expansion of features? Maybe the macro mode that is on the OnePlus 7T Pro. Maybe they're going to try something like that. Like, how far can they go on this?
Uh, are you so specifically talking about future phones, not the Pixel 4 itself?
Just
Uh,
in terms of perspective of how far Google's software development can take this.
um, wow. Uh, you
I
know,
know it's a wide open world.
uh, it's one of those things. I think in the immediate future, we're probably not going to see any big, at least for the 4A. I don't think we're going to see any big changes after this. It'll probably basically parallel what they're introducing here, or possibly with one fewer camera. I suspect just to keep costs down, they might go with either one or two cameras for the A's. But for the future, I mean, so much is possible, and as each company shows something can be done, everybody else typically moves in some way to respond. Maybe not quickly, as Google has shown us more than once, but at the very least, we'll probably see any number of possibilities.
Yeah, I tend to feel that Google is like Apple in terms of leading from behind for features. Like, I mean, Apple has its own realm, but Google, in terms of this specific topic, imaging, I feel like really does exceptionally well, and they're able to keep up at least. How about solely in time of flight? How much stuff are we supposed to put into the front of our phones, and how how important are these augmented I guess mediums? How important are they supposed to be to the user?
So I'm waiting to see what Google's really going to announce with Soli. I mean, we've already heard plenty of rumors, but in the long run, is it is it going to be, especially after a few software updates? I should clarify that. Is this going to be one of those things where they really roll out a ton of features, or is it going to stay kind of really lightweight, very limited gestures? Because in the long run, Soli could become one of the really, really powerful things, or it could just be that gimmick that you show off. Like for the first month or two that the phone is out, it's that thing people get to show their friends, like, hey, look at the cool thing I can do. Watch me wave my hand. And, in a month, everyone's going to be saying, yeah, no, no, we've seen it. We're cool with that.
The
Um,
features dustbin is wide and varied, and everyone is has carried their share of blame for contributing to it.
no kidding.
So
As far as time of flight, I think that's already been kind of a proven thing. It's so good for delivering a good sense of sort of mapping to depth and just figuring out what things to focus, what things to leave out of focus in the synthetic portrait mode.
hmm, okay, yeah, yeah, I can see that. I mean, and again, this is apples to Google here, so um, it'll be interesting to see how much more, or if Google and Apple will be on equal step this time around. And finally, just as a matter of taste, Oso orange is um, what I think. I I'm not really a fan of the whole salmon thing, because it's this cross between orange and pink that I've been getting really, really sick of. It's been known by many names: pink rose, or rose gold, excuse me. Um, I'm just sick of it. What about you?
Well, okay, you call out rose gold specifically, which I think that was actually a fairly decent color, but also largely because it was always presented in a fairly glossy look, whereas
Mm.
this doesn't look quite as much so. But it's hard to tell in renders. Either way, I gotta admit the pictures we've seen so far, I do not love this at all. I think it looks really bad. I love experimenting with colors and finding different colors that might work. This just yeah, I'm not sold on this color, but that's
I
my
really
taste.
want a more bolder orange, kind of a California surfing, or something like that, or even like a tried and true pink. Because I think when we were talking about the iris, I made a mock-up to use as one of our hero images for the post, and that was kind of, it was ideal, but it was also pushing it. It was a little too excessive. So
Well, why don't we just I don't want to say get back to, but why not just roll with some really strong colors? We saw that with that really bizarre red Nexus. Was it a Nexus 5? I forget exactly, but the really
yeah, it's a
bright red
Nexus
one.
5. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's just
let's have some of that again. A blue, a red, or why not? We haven't seen enough green phones. Like anything in those territories would be really neat.
every single time I can bring up Moto Maker and just sigh deeply and continuously. It's just why?
Oh no, I
Why?
would love to see a return of Moto Maker.
Why hasn't it gone through? Why hasn't it been carried on? But I don't know. Anyways, I think it's time to talk about the hard numbers, and that would be your job.
Yep, we've got some more specs, and they are pretty much what you would expect. It's got a Snapdragon 855, 6 gigabytes of RAM. They are hyping up that there's a Titan, of course, USB-C, because can you imagine a phone coming out without USB-C at this stage? 64 and 128 gigs of storage, which seems a little bit on the low side for a top level storage, but you never know. They have,
They've really
which
stuck
makes
to that,
very little
haven't
sense
they?
to me. It seems like a good time to maybe at least push up to at least double that. But anyway, there the differences in size between the 4 and the 4XL are going to be 5.7 inch on the regular 4 and 6.3 inch on the XL. And both of them are going to be rocking OLED displays with 90 hertz refresh rates. So basically, just everything is going to look a little bit smoother on the phone. I've heard people say nothing but great things about 90 hertz displays, and it kind of ruins you for other phones. I haven't actually tried one yet, so I'm not sure what to think of that. Uh,
Yeah, myself haven't been to the Razer store that much, but every time I've avoided taking a glance at the Razer phone just because
yeah, if it
of
really
what I've
does ruin it
heard.
for you, that almost makes you kind of want to avoid in the oddest way. But anyway, the battery sizes are going to be a little daunting. The 5.7 inch is going to be coming with a 2800 milliamp hour battery, and the 6.3 inch is going to be coming with a 3700 milliamp hour battery. So that's a pretty big jump in uh, in power there, and leaves actually the 5.7 on a kind of a small battery.
Yeah, I'm a little well, see, okay, this is getting a little ridiculous behind the scenes because now my latency is at like 3 seconds. So, excuse me while I take off my headphones and try to address you in this way. All right. So I'm a little surprised at the optimizations that they've been trying to pull off and how they're going to work out because we've seen kind of in terms of like what we've saw in leaks, like we've reached a ceiling of some sort. And I guess, it's just to fit things into something of this size and not anything that is too immensely bigger. So, well, I mean, at what point do we just is the bigger battery a lost cause? I guess you could ask.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it will have to see what battery life is actually like in the long run, because that's where so much of this is really going to play out. If they're sacrificing a lot of battery life on the lower or on the smaller of the two, that's not a great deal. Anyway, so pricing has partially leaked already, and probably the best reference point is going to be the Canadian prices from that was, I believe, a Best Buy leak.
Yep.
Uh, anyway, so the Pixel, just for comparison, the Pixel 3 was $1,000 in Canada, and the Pixel 4 is going to be 1,050, so a rise of $50. And the XL was originally 1,130, and it's going to be jumping to an even 1,200, so it's going up by $70. So we are seeing the prices rising, which really fits with what we've already seen in the industry. Obviously, Apple's prices have been increasing, so have Samsung's. But I am going to throw a bit of a kind of a question and a challenge to Google. If you're going to be basically creating this lineup where the iPhone 11 is Apple's budget phone, and the Pixel 4 or the A line Pixels, let's say that, if they're supposed to be sort of the competitor to that, shouldn't the A line be releasing at the same time as the main phones as well? It just seems to be a better product decision and just better for consumers.
See, I don't know how much of the motivation was put into when this year's the first A phones that came out, because uh, I think it was only just a matter of the discourse about, oh, premium Pixel phones, they're not selling that well. Google's failing at phones and it's failing at hardware. And I feel like there's been perhaps a lot of pressure was played into, hey, let's release a budget phone. And I don't know whether they'll start to resign themselves to the TikTok of having it being a summer release and the premiums being a fall. It's I mean, Samsung has adapted. Apple, you could say begrudgingly, has adapted. Um, Maybe it's just the fact that there's just so much of a gulf, because the A is, a mid-range or a true $500 less than what you I would otherwise be paying. So I don't know. Maybe it's not to cheapen the spotlight on the 4 or 4 XL. I don't know.
So, do you think the price increases are warranted?
Uh,
I
I
know,
don't think
harsh
so.
question.
I don't think so. No, it's they can stuff in as much R&D, as many radios that can detect how many hairs are on my fingers, all they want. Um, it's just going to be a matter of perceived value, and yeah, that's not ranking too high at the moment.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. So, a question from Solari came into the chat room. There seems to be a very good argument that the Pixel 4 is too expensive if the price is to be believed. But should we be excited since this is the most features we've gotten on a new phone in the Pixel history? And
I don't know if that last answer answered that, but I mean, hey,
well,
just
no, no, I mean, at least in part, the question deserves to be called out. And to be fair, this is the most hardware that they've added, and I think the real question becomes, are they going to make good enough use of the hardware to justify the increased prices? Because if like I mentioned before, if solely turns out to just be a gimmick, how much has that really added to the price of the phone? And should they maybe have left it out until they could have added more to it? I think that's really where a lot of this kind of has to come down to, because the Pixels are still definitely expensive phones, but they're not the most expensive on the market yet. And even as I say that, I feel a small that cringe of fear that they might actually crawl even higher. But they're going to have to justify more and more the price if the price is going to keep going up.
I think I might have missed out on who asked this question, but I think we've pointed it out before, or yes, we pointed it out. It's 64 to 128. Like, why are these options still there when it's clear that 128 minimum is where Samsung has been for at least the past season and a half? LG, I think they're still at 64. I'm not sure, but yeah, um, that also adds on to the price proposition here, because if you're starting at that high and you're still stuck with this amount of storage, it doesn't really matter to me how much Google Photos cloud storage you're offering for free, and especially if you're still offering um, no, it's original quality. I thought they were just offering high quality backups, but that is the standard. I should be clear. So yeah. That's yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. Did you want to talk? Sorry to kind of break from script, but did you want to mention that HP Chromebook thing?
Yeah, so apparently 3 has plans, leaked out, 3 in the UK, little network there, that apparently has decided perhaps to, offer up an HP Chromebook 14, for free if you, pre-order, I think, yeah. So, see, this goes into the whole value proposition of Chromebooks as well, because okay, is that cheapening the Chromebook experience when I think we've made it clear from prior discussions that it's getting worse by the day if Windows continues to be a better option, if Mac OS continues to be a better option, and the use cases keep getting more limited, especially if you're not a student in a K to 12 or even a K to 8 environment. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents or 2 pence.
That being said, that is still actually a pretty generous bonus
It
just
is.
to give away a Chromebook of any kind just because you're on a particular carrier. That it also makes me wonder: are any other similar things going to be offered from other carriers, or is direct purchases from Google, are those also going to have some pretty good perks? Kind of really makes me wonder about that part.
See, I apologize for being on today because I'm more of the nihilist host, and I'm kind of like, yeah, this is not good value. That's not good value, and you probably shouldn't buy it. Good luck. So, I'm sorry again for being on here. You know what? I shall distract you. Let's talk about something else, right? Let's talk about a couple of Nest items or former Google family items that are about to move into the Nest family. We have Google Wi-Fi, that mesh router system. Apparently, the rumors are saying that we're going to transform that into more of a router and beacon system. So instead of just having one size fits all stations, it's a router and beacon. Those beacons are going to have speakers on them. I would suppose that those will be sort of like Google Home Minis that have a Wi-Fi router attached to them, and that's handy. Okay, that's cool. We also have the Nest Minis, which would take place of the Google Home Mini. Confused yet? Um, yeah, apparently the biggest new feature now that there's been a lot of talk that there was supposed to be a 3.5 millimeter headphone port to it. That's been killed, apparently. So now the biggest thing that we have to be excited about is a hole in the base so that you can stick it on a wall very easily and not have to buy a $20 accessory. I don't know.
Yeah, it at the very least, they clearly learned this is something people want to be able to do, because those accessories were extraordinarily popular, and Google clearly took the hint that that's something that just needed to be happening. They needed to be mountable. People want to be able to keep these out of the way, which is great. And I think that's also the explanation for the upcoming Nest Wi-Fi, because now you've got two things that you probably actually may have actually had sitting right next to each other in the first place, merged into a single product, which is perfectly logical. Now you're plugging in one less thing, you're taking up less space, uh, and you also have to deal with fewer things actually taking up Wi-Fi territory.
Hmm.
So that's great.
That is great. That's the flat surface. Well, because vertical surfaces are also flat. But flat horizontal table space is, I think, the complete term we're looking for. Any other thing that we might be looking forward to? I would suppose that Nest cams are going to be updated so that there will be more of them, perhaps indoors, outdoors, as an answer to what Amazon just launched recently, and maybe a couple of like not retrofit kits for alarm systems, but something to augment their Nest alarm system. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, as far as Nest goes, I admit I don't really follow the Nest family all that much. I guess technically I'm gonna be kind of forced to now, since at least the branding is about to cross over. But the it are we still looking forward to theoretically Pixel Buds coming at the show?
Theoretically, yes, as
Okay.
far as I've last read.
And of course, we've also had a discussion about the expected Pixelbook 2. So,
But go. No, you have to
oh,
go.
sorry, Pixelbook Go.
Move.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so there are certainly a few things to look forward to. I'm curious how much of the show they're going to dedicate to each of these products because most of them don't really seem to be substantial changes over previous models.
Hmm. Well, there you go. That's our expectations from two members of the Android police team. I think we have like an army of a million descending upon. Are they holding him in the same place as last time, Spring Street Studios or something? They might be parachuting down into Manhattan right now. So look forward to that coverage. It's going to be happening across Android Police all across tomorrow. Please do listen out for that.
And speaking of Android Police and listening to us, if you're listening to this podcast on, or sorry, I misread that. Anyway,
No
uh,
worries.
if you're listening to this on your podcast app or watching this on the YouTube channel, you're probably catching us the day after the show went live on twitch.tv/Android Police. We're live on there 4 times a week, and we love taking your questions, so check us out there. And if you like us enough to chip in a little on support, you can subscribe to us. Tiers start at $5 a month, or you can. Oh, I cannot read today.
It's
Or
all
you,
right. You can jazz hands it. In fact, I encourage jazz hands. This is what makes me get through script a little bit in a exciting
anyway,
way.
I'll restart that one. This will become an edit that Jules just has to spend an extra moment on. And if you like us enough to chip in a little support, you can subscribe to us. Tiers start at $5 a month, or you can subscribe to us for free through your Amazon Prime account. All you need to know is at twitch.tv/Android Police, and thanks for listening.
Boom. We did it. All right. Now is my favorite part of the show because I have a feeling that what we're about to talk about is in your vision right now. And that's if you're on the Twitch stream, by the way. So, Cody, what are you using right now to podcast with us?
Well, you may have noticed I'm rocking a big black microphone. And yes, the jokes are there. Anyway, it is
Mike
a
doesn't rhyme with that word. Mike.
anyway. For those who have watched the feed before, you may have seen this huge silver microphone in front of me. I have I'm not going to say retired it, but it's now a little bit to the background, as the new one in front of me is the Yeti X from Blue. It's basically their upgraded model. It's got a whole bunch of really killer lights on the front of it, which actually you can't see right now. And I can't turn this around without my boom arm making a really loud squeak. So I'm not going to be doing that. Anyway, so the front of it right now, I'm looking at, as I speak, it has an audio meter on it, which shows me my levels. I can also set custom sound profiles for it. So I could increase the warmth of my voice, give myself a bit of a radio announcer sound. I can make several different changes to this in a way that you normally need. I don't want to say pro level equipment, but certainly higher level equipment that most podcasters really want to spend on, unless you're going to sort of a full radio level kind of thing. So yeah, really nice microphone. It is launching at $169. Or actually, I believe $169.99. And I have a review of it up on Android Police right now. So by all means, if you're curious about this, check it out. And link is going into the chat room now. So did you have any questions about it yourself?
So I read up a little bit on the review, and I suppose some of the old questions remain because I do appreciate that Yeti does the hardware mute, but it's still got to be that button that's just, it makes a sound. I have to edit it out every single time you mute. It's just, I don't know, but I wish there might have been an easy or a different way to implement that.
Yeah, and you may just choose to edit this part out in the final podcast. But for anyone listening right now, this is what that
Oh
sounds
boy.
like.
Which for them isn't, isn't bad.
Yeah,
But on the waveforms, actually, it's a little bit more intense than that, which is
y-
a different story.
yeah,
But it's not your story.
exactly. So it's really good, but yeah, software mute is definitely the better solution in most instances.
Do
Uh,
you have a gaming headset suggestion? I believe Jexidian is looking for one.
Um, Unfortunately, I don't. I don't do enough gaming, especially multiplayer gaming. At least not right now. So, no real gaming headset recommendations. I'm honestly, I'm just more of a fan in general of actually having the stationary mic and then using whatever headphones you actually enjoy.
Mm, that makes sense. All right, and there's plenty of other thoughts that could be had, but we're running a little bit short on time at this point. So I want to head into our last story, if it's even a story, if you will.
So here's a blast from the past you probably weren't expecting on a Monday. Famous virtual flounder Leisure Suit Larry is back for his first game on Android. Wet Dreams Don't Dry. It's been published on Steam for a while, so you may have already played it. It runs $30 on there, and it is now on the Play Store for $15. Um, it's of course a return to the classic style of Leisure Suit Larry. Notably, the original series creator Al Lowe was not involved in this game, but for those who know the past, he was actually involved up until I think it was 2003. Uh, I I believe that was the right year.
Which is a
Anyway,
long time in video game standards.
yeah, but he actually quit the company that owned the rights to Leisure Suit Larry at that time due to a number of reasons. But he actually had a falling out with I believe it was the CEO, over the fact the CEO got into a lot of trouble. So he left there and now is, I believe, disconnected from the franchise. But to be fair, the man is also 73, so he may actually just want to take a break at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. I bet that CEO, well, that's a joke that might be slanderous, so not really, but he might have been a leisure suit Larry himself. No, not gonna. No, the game won't.
Well, we're not going to go into the details here, but suffice it to say, he definitely did make some poor choices. But that's something you'll want to look up separately.
Sounds great.
Regardless, it I remember it vaguely playing these games. I didn't try them very much. I didn't spend a lot of time with them, but my oldest sort of fondest memory of them wasn't actually the game itself. It was how they age gated it. For those
Really?
who did not play these, they used to start, at least one or two of them started with questions that they figured only adults would be able to answer. And it would be things like who was the president in a certain year or what was the name of this event. And dead serious, they considered that something people under a certain age would not know. And of course, they assume people over a certain age would know. And to be fair, this all came before Google when anyone could find out these answers within seconds.
Yeah, your Commodores and Amigas don't have those 46s around. So well, even then that was pretty early internet there. So hmm. But in any case, I do remember some, not just AgeGate, but also CopyGate. Just different ways of preventing people from running uh, copied tapes. Well, this is more of a British phenomenon, but yeah, some of them had, like, you had to have the included cyclorama, and you have to match pirates' faces. What was the one with the guy brush three wood? Some piratey game.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't, Monkey Island?
Monkey Island.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, that was a fun time.
Yeah, those were actually very fun. I played
Mm,
through a few of them.
yeah, yeah. Great times, great times. Well, here's the part of the show where we have to leave you. But feel free to connect with us anytime. Facebook, Twitter, Android Police. We're live 4 times a week on twitch.tv/Android Police. This week, just in case you have not caught this, we have moved our Wednesday Twitch show to a Tuesday night audio only podcast to cover what we have would have just covered at the Google event. So make sure to check that out. And also, Friday show. That's been moved up to Thursday now in order to accommodate our very special guest, longtime tech journalist Miriam Jawar. So keep track of everything, twitch.tv/Android Police, and also on Twitter at Android Police. All the stories we've talked about today at androidpolice.com/podcast. And you can send your thoughts and suggestions to podcast@androidpolice.com. On Twitter, Cody's at Cody_TOOMBS. I'm at Point Jules. Our theme music is from home.
I'll see you tomorrow for the Q&A at 1:30 Pacific with Corbin, and hope you have a fantastic